What Pro Tools really was about, the thought process when they started designing it, was that we wanted to eliminate the recording console and eliminate the tape machine. So the computer could do both of those functions. You still have a band in the live room with microphones going through microphone mic pre's and maybe compressors, and then into your digital system being digitized, and then that digital audio being recorded and played back. So it was a recording device, except it was recording digital audio instead of analog signals. Sequencers, on the other hand, start from the thought process of, okay, we want to encode performances so later we can change sounds with sound modules. Early on, Pro Tools and Logic both decided, hey, we're recording digital information. It's all ones and zeros in the first place. It's just a matter of how we're manipulating it. Pro Tools decided that they were going to add a MIDI page to their recording software, and Logic decided, hey, we should be able to record microphones too. It's just digital once it gets converted into the digital domain. So we should be able to manipulate that with the computer. They come to the same place coming from different perspectives. And some people love Logic because they're really sort of songwriters and they can quickly lay out a song and sequence it and get the idea down. Whereas some people like me started from tape machines and consoles, and I wanted to record it and edit it more properly. Still today, Pro Tools is probably the best digital editor, where Logic is probably one of the better sequencing programs. They both can do both. At some point, they probably will be almost identical. I see Digit Design incorporating the ideas that Logic is doing in their sequencers, and I see Logic incorporating ideas from Digit Design. So I think that they, at some point, really have to sort of merge into the same thing, because they're really just dealing with digital information, no matter how it's generated or how it's used. You can transcribe and score using MIDI. So there's programs that can read the music off the page, transcribe it into MIDI notes, and then play synthesizers to represent the musicians. Conversely, if you played something into the computer, it can write it out in music format. This is what a hardware sequencer used to look like. Looks kind of archaic at this point. But you see over here you've got track 1, 2, 3, 4. We had 8 channels on this. And you could do some editing, and you had to do it all in this little window here. First developed in 1974. Very popular in the early 80s. We personally did a lot of the early Madonna stuff on little sequencers like this. Now, of course, you've got software sequencing. So you've got Logic, Ableton Live, Digital Performer, Cubase, Acid Pro, Reaper, GarageBand. I mean, it goes on. But these are all MIDI sequencing softwares. So when you play a virtual instrument in GarageBand, you're actually manipulating MIDI, which is creating a sound from a sound generator, which is 100% different than actually recording audio and having an audio recording in wave format in your computer, like Pro Tools does. But the interesting thing is, at some point they started realizing, well, we could take audio samples, say a drum hit, and then we could sequence it using MIDI. So we could take that as the digital information and then place it wherever we wanted and adjust the performance values of it. Real-time recording mode, so you play a performance, the sequencer captures all the parameters of the performance in real time. Data played and recorded as a performance. But step-time programming is where you can actually enter the MIDI data as if it were digital information, and you're just putting dots on a page as to where the notes are to play and how long they're to play and what the duration is and what the down pressure is, and you can adjust all the parameters in the computer as a programmer rather than as a musician playing a performance. You could go ahead and just with your mouse draw on your sequencer where you want the note to play, what note to play, all that stuff. And you can adjust sounds later too. Drew it in the wrong octave, just copy and paste it. Oh, it's in the next chorus too, cut and paste. It's so much easier than having to actually play it. But that's another way to enter data, and it's usually drawn on a grid. So anybody can program MIDI, even if you're not a drummer. You can use the grid, and you can place drum hits if you like. Step-time sequencing used to look like this. Time would go on and these lights would light in different time sequences. Of course, now it looks a little more sophisticated, but it's really sort of the same concept. And as I was saying, you get auto quantizing, you get computer correction, you get manual quantizing, You can set fields, you can set different time signatures, you can adjust time signatures after the performance has been done. You can say, it feels a little slow, and just change the tempo, and all the MIDI information will adjust. So now, sound generators are mostly plugins, even though I know that there's a big resurgence in people trying to get outboard gear sound generators. And those synthesizers really had a uniqueness and a unique sound. Some people like to go back to those, but in general now you can go and get a synth plugin that has all the vintage sounds, has real sounds, has synthetic sounds, can generate electronic sounds that never existed before. And then there's samplers. So we'd capture a snare drum hit, and then we would play it and sequence it into a song. So we had a real sound, not just a synthetic sound. The samplers come with extensive sound libraries now, and you can manipulate samples and combine samples and add things together. You can add synthesizer algorithms along with real sound samples. So you can create just about any kind of sound you want. Okay, so you might ask, what's the future of MIDI? MIDI HD is under discussion. So they've been talking about really upgrading a lot of the parameters in MIDI so that it's even more useful for today. And they want to make it backwards compatible to MIDI 1.0. Increasing resolution and speed, numbers of channels, numbers of controllers. So instead of 16 channels, you may get 32 channels. Increased events to be encoded. This is sort of the future. So there's a lot of potential uses still for it. The concept is really great. I encourage you to open up your computer with any simple sequencing software and play around with it.